everybody, Dia Davidson here with another conversation on race. This time we're talking about the power of the Black vote, getting Black votes out. Joining me now, Senator Reginald Thomas. He represents the 13th District here in the Commonwealth. Reggie, it's always good to see you.
Dia, it's always good to see you.
All right, let's talk a little bit about it. We're in an election year,
Yes.
and we're hearing, courting of the Black vote. We hear this every election, though, and especially the Democratic Party likes to feel that the Black vote is theirs, and the Republican Party typically tries to court us and remind us that Lincoln was a Republican and all of these things. But why is the Black vote and brown vote so important?
Dia, let me begin by citing you study after study by the Center on American Politics. It's a think tank in Washington. And every year they look at voting constituencies, voting demographics. And Dia, I say this a lot when I go to some sorority meetings, sometimes to talk about political events and political actions. The Center for American Politics has shown for about the last 10 years now, Dia, that the most loyal and the strongest voting bloc among all demographics are Black women. That's you, Dia. That's you. Black women vote about 71% of all Black women. That's about 3 percentage points higher than white women, which is about 68%. About 3% higher of white men, which come in about 65%, and about 4 points after that for Black men, which is about 61%. So of all your demographics, the most intentional of voting are Black women. Black women come to vote. Okay, you couple that with the fact that Blacks vote somewhere between 85 to 90% Democratic. Democratic. And you understand how important the Black vote is in general to elections, because Black women vote more than any other demographic constituency, and Blacks vote overwhelmingly demographic. You see how important it is. So take someone like Kamala Harris, who's now the VP nominee for the Democratic Party, and that's no accident. That's just looking at the raw numbers and saying, we need this group of people. The Democratic Party, we need this group of people if we're going to win. Women outvote men. Blacks heavily vote Democratic, and we have strong proof of that in the 2008 election for President Obama, when the overall vote by Blacks did increase by 6%. Okay. He brought out about another 250,300,000 additional votes that had never been brought out before. I mean, that's strength, and that's significant, Dia.
But now we're seeing the other side talking about the Biden-Harris ticket using derogatory. Now we know we have seen the images of the derogatory images of President Barack Obama that were used prior to him being elected, while he was in office, even the birther issue. Now we're seeing them with Kamala Harris, Joe and the Ho. Why do we as a society feel that it's okay to not only assign these derogatory and prejudicial and discriminatory labels, but that people will actually print them and put them on their cars, on their home lawns, to post them on social media? Why do you see this being allowable and happening?
Well, Dia, allow me to be historical. This is nothing new in American politics. I want to tell you and your viewers that. I mean, if you look at American political history, and I'm sure that surprised you that I'm a student of politics, we have seen these kind of scathing, kind of vicious attacks on politicians since the beginning of American history. I mean, we can go back, about 140 years, when I think it was Grover Cleveland and Benjamin Harrison, I can't remember which one it was, but one of them had a child out of wedlock, and there was a cartoon that said to the presidential candidate who won, Ma, where's my pa? And the mom replies, he's in the White House, ha ha ha. So these kind of just mean attacks have been part of the American landscape for a long time.
But
Now,
to actually want to call her a hoe? Really? I mean, that as a woman, regardless of color, is a diminishing, marginalizing type of phrase. But then to assign it to a Black woman takes on even a different type of impact.
Dia, they're just mean people out there in this world. And Dia, anyone in positions like we have who are always in the public eye, we encounter those kinds of attacks and threats, and just negativity. I mean, in emails, in letters. I mean, you yourself did know what I'm talking about. You've seen emails that people said about you.
Oh, sure.
In which they will use, and excuse my language for saying this, the B word. We heard Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez talk about this a couple of months ago when a congressman used that against her. It's just a part of the American landscape, Dia. But it's up to us, and Kamala Harris knew this going in. I mean, she's a strong woman. I mean, she is. Don't underestimate at all, her strength and her resolve and her determination. I mean, she didn't get to where she got by being a wallflower. So she's prepared for this. She's going to be able to deal with this. She's going to overcome this. And people like you and me, other educated voters, just understand that those kind of statements are made out of fear. Are people being worried that somehow they're losing some kind of legacy or some kind of privilege, and we just let those kind of statements just roll off our back, and if it does anything, it motivates us to work harder to make sure. And this is just me now speaking as a Democratic senator, to make sure that she and Joe Biden get elected.
It seems like to me that civility and common courtesy and decency has waned over the past several years, where there seems to be a comfort. Like, several months ago, I was doing a Facebook Live for the station to help people with unemployment issues when someone decided they wanted to call me a nigger. And this is, live and in real time with Facebook Live. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, because it was unexpected and uncalled for. Yet, as a Black woman in America, I knew that I was not immune, especially putting myself out there, to that type of attack. And that's, I guess, the takeaway is that we almost have to have this guard up, this wall, that we know that there's a potential for this to come. And it seems like it wants to come now more than it used to. At least people were civil, and they wouldn't come right at you and say it. But that we just have to kind of be protected and know that it's possible.
That's true. Dear, we all have to be strong. We all have to know who we are, and that those kinds of words and statements, again, we just attach that to ignorance. And we're not a part of that kind of ignorant thinking, and we just move on and do our jobs.
But talking about being aware and educated about politics and the consequences and benefits of voting and not voting, we were talking about, before we got started, a young person who's created a comic strip. Let's talk about invigorating young people, because I get very sad when I see reports, especially of Black and brown young people, and Black and brown young men especially, talking about, I don't like either one, I'm not going to vote. That worries me, because you've got to make a choice. You got to take a stand, because in not exercising it, you're basically turning your back on people like John Lewis and the sacrifices that he made in his life in order for us to have the right to vote, Dr. Martin Luther King, and so many other individuals through the years. How do you, as a Black man and a politician, a senator here in our state, how do you help our young Black and brown and all of our young people understand the importance and the value of their vote?
Well, Dee, you have to meet people where they are, okay? And if you want to engage them and you want to solicit their support, you got to go to them. You've got to be where they are. I'm proud to say that since the Black Lives Movement, began following the death of George Floyd, I've attended 7 different rallies. Tonight, and we're doing this being taped on a Wednesday. Tonight will be my 8th because there's a rally going to take place regarding the recent shooting of Jacob Blake, the young man in Kenosha, Wisconsin, who was shot 7 times walking away from police after he was trying to de-escalate violence. I mean, he wasn't trying to encourage violence. He was trying to de-escalate violence and still got shot 7 times.
And is paralyzed now from
the waist down. So I'm going to a rally tonight. So you've got to get out there and be where the young people are. And look, I'm proud that I've been to a number of different rallies and been out there in support of the young people. I've been wearing my mask, and I've been, you can't really social distance very much, but I've been, making sure I don't shake anybody's hands. But you got to get out there. And what you showed me before we began our conversation with that young man doing that image of telling people to go vote, I mean, that's what's been so rewarding about this whole Black Lives Movement matter, is that you've had young people telling other young people, hey, if we really want to make a change, we have to vote. If you really want to make a difference, we got to go to the election booth. And this past Saturday, I was out, not really doing some canvassing, but I was out dropping off literature door to door, not engaging anyone. And I was really impressed that most people out there with me were young adults, and mostly young men in their 20s out there campaigning. So I am really heartened that, again, we will see, again, a significant increase in young people voting. Again, similar to what we saw in 2008 when President Obama won his election. I think you'll see a lot of young people engaged in this election.
Let's talk a little bit about Black Lives Matter real quickly. People are saying, well, all lives matter, or blue lives matter. Why do you say Black Lives Matter? Some taking the signs off of people's front yards. Black Lives Matter because?
All right. My response is this. Until Black Lives Matter, Dia, no lives matter. Or to put it another way, when Black Lives Matter, then all lives will matter. I mean, that's where I am. So you can't come back and say to me, well, all lives matter. Because I say all lives don't matter because Black lives don't matter. I mean, Dia, how many times, just how many times, and I know you feel the same just frustration that I feel, and you and I aren't alone. There are millions of other Americans of all different races and ages. How many times do we have to see these killings of unarmed Black men to say, this has just got to stop? I mean, Jacob Blake is just another example of just a horrific, unnecessary act of killing an unarmed Black man. Again, he was trying to de-escalate a violent situation. He was walking away from the police, and he got shot not once, not twice, but 7 times. I mean,
in front of his children.
Of his children. He had 3 children in the car. I mean, that's just cruel. That's just mean. I mean, you can't come up with enough adjectives to talk about how unnecessary and evil that act is. And yes, I know police do good work, but that's got to stop. Go ahead.
Well, why do you think now people are so impassioned about it? Is it because of social media? Is it because of these cell phones? Is it, and we're seeing the video, and it's not just us telling people this is happening, and they're saying, oh, there they go again? Or is it because we got pictures now?
Yeah, I think it's people like you that have helped fuel this movement. I mean, the videos certainly have made a difference. When it's brought into your face and you see a police officer on the neck of a man pleading for his life, saying, "I can't breathe," calling for his mama, and that officer has his knee on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I mean, that does something to you as a human being. When you have conversations like this, or you see specials on TV, talking about this, it does something to your humanity, to your soul. And so I think that's the difference here. That it has gotten to the core of who we are as a people. I mean, you can't look at what you see with George Floyd, or with Rashad Brooks, or with Jacob Blake, and if you're human, not feel some kind of empathy and anger for what you see.
And then when I hear the mothers, not the fathers too, when we hear their impassion, their frustration that they could not protect their children, because I know men are protectors by nature, but these mothers, I cannot even begin to imagine the pain, the loss, the hole, the emptiness. How do our politicians help when we don't hear resolutions of these things in these cases? Breonna Taylor's mother waiting on resolution from Attorney General Daniel Cameron. How do we trust? And coming back to women being that pool, that voting populace, how do we trust that when we vote for our politicians, our leaders, that when it is our time of need to protect our children, that they're there?
The answer is simple. You got to take action. You've got to be like Keith Ellison in Minnesota, who's Attorney General, saying, "I'm going to bring murder charges against these officers." Okay, you got to be a Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms in Atlanta that says, "Look, I'm not going to tolerate another shooting like Rashad Brooks. Excuse me. I'm going to bring charges against that officer." So you've got to be like Mayor Muriel Bowser in Washington, D.C., that puts on the streets going to the White House, "Black Lives Matter." Okay, you've got to take action and say that we're no longer going to tolerate these kinds of unnecessary, evil, brutal actions against unarmed Black men.
Period.
That's right.
Or exclamation point, I suppose we could say too, huh? Let's talk about the postal system.
that's a
you know, I guess my initial thought was, okay, if they slow the postal system, won't big business get mad? Because I'm old fashioned. We put our bills in the mail with a stamp on it. I don't let everybody just get in my check count and, do their thing. So why are we hearing from big business saying, pump the brakes, y'all, pump the brakes, DeJoy. Let's make sure that this postal system works so that we get our money. And if by consequence those ballots get in, well, good thing too. Why aren't we hearing big business upset about this?
Well, I think they are saying that. They probably aren't making the noise that we would like them to make. But this postal system has certainly hurt business, just like it's hurt anybody else. And let me give you an example that happened to me a month ago. I was waiting on a deed that I had worked on for a client, and it was being mailed from Lexington to my post office box in Lexington. It was mailed, Dia, on July the 20th. I got it 2 weeks later on August 3rd. Again, an in-city mailing. Okay.
What?
I couldn't believe it took 2 weeks to get those deeds to me. Okay. Dia, and I'm not going to name any names, but I go by the post office a lot just to drop letters off. And in the various stations around town, these postal workers tell me that they've never seen it this bad in Lexington. How mail is stacked up in the post office, just rows of it, can't go out. How sorting takes, sometimes 2 days to sort mail. It really is bad out there. It really is bad. And it's a threat it's a threat to our security as a country, Dia, when you slow the mails down and mail doesn't get delivered, because that impacts, as you talk about bills, that impacts checks, that impacts payments, that impacts
Medicine,
right, medicine,
yeah.
everything. So it's dangerous, but the slowdown is very real. It's very real, and it could very easily have an impact on our elections. That's why a lot of elected officials like myself are telling people, go ahead and get your ballots in now. You know, you can go on Dia, you can go on now, www.ky.gov. I think that's what it is, and go to the Secretary of State's office and request your ballot now.
I think it's gokyvote.ky.gov. Yeah.
Yeah, go KYVote.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And get it and get that turnaround. But the thing is, even though we may request it, it's still going to take till they said the middle to end of September to actually physically get it in hand. So once you request it, remember it's going to be a lag. And then once you get it, you got to turn it right back around because of this postal lag, right?
Right. And Dia, that's why we should encourage people to really drop it off at drop boxes down the county clerk's office. If you can do that, that's certainly the better way to do it. You know, obviously, if you can't get it back in the mail as soon as possible. And on this point, Dia, and again, you and others like you in the media can take the lead on this, but that doesn't mean I don't have a responsibility as well. We've got to educate people to realize that on election night, Dia, we won't know who the winner is. Okay, I mean, COVID has really changed our world upside down in so many ways, and this is just another example of this. I mean, because ballots have until election day postmarked to be counted. So they could be postmarked on November 3rd and still not arrive until 2 or 3 days later. And you got to count all those votes. So we need to be conditioned now and to understand that it may be 2 weeks after election day before we know who the winner is.
And then there's talk that there could be, folks who will contest the election results and drag this thing on almost up to January 20th. But the reality is, if we don't have it by January 20th, wouldn't Nancy Pelosi take over as president?
She would. That would be an interesting.
Just saying. Just saying. So, when people are saying, well, I'll stay in office until, maybe next year or 5 years from now. That's not really if we follow constitutional law, the term ends and the next person in line.
Well, Dia, look, I hope we don't have a constitutional crisis in this country that we've never seen before. We've never had a president not willing to leave after his term expired. But I think given what we've seen, we have to be prepared for that possibility. Well,
he said it. He said
it. And then deal with it accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, on January 20th, it'll either be Joe Biden, Donald Trump, or Nancy Pelosi. Stay tuned, right?
Well, I have my preference, so.
As we all do, as we all should. Reggie, thank you so much for your time and sharing. It's always good to talk to you.
Like I told you, the time we allotted was not enough. We'll have to do this again, maybe after the election.
Sounds like a plan. Let's do it. And then January 20th, when we get to announce who's taken over of those 3 individuals, right?
That's right. But you continue to take care of yourself. I watch you on 18. You do a great job.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for watching this conversation on race and the power of the Black vote. Remember, you can watch this and all of my conversations on LEX 18 and our social media platforms. Until next time, I'm Dia Davidson.